Getting approved for the Citi Strata Premier can be tricky, even with a good credit score. I learned this firsthand when I recently applied and hit some unexpected roadblocks. But after navigating the process myself, watching countless videos, and reading all of the blog posts, I discovered exactly what you need to know to maximize your chances of approval for this card, and I packed it up nicely in this video for you. I'm going to break down Citi's hidden rules, share the mistakes I made so you can avoid them, and walk you through the strategies that work for getting this underrated card. So let's dive straight into Citi's approval rules because they have 3 unique-ish ones that can trip up even an experienced credit card connoisseur. First up is what's known as the 865 rule, and I know what you're thinking, I hate number rules too, but here it goes. You'll get denied if you've applied for any Citi card in the last 8 days. So this means you apply to one Citi card, then you apply to a second one 9 days later, and theoretically you'll be fine. And then the other part of it is you'll also get denied if you've applied for 2 or more Citi cards in the last 60 to 65 days on a rolling basis. So from the date of your first credit card application, wait 66 days and theoretically you'll be fine. And now truthfully, when reading and learning about these, there's a bit of back and forth with most places saying it's based on the date that you apply, and there's been 1 or 2 that uses the word approved. So I would play it safe and use whichever date is later, and maybe just even adding a few days or a week just to be safe, because there may be even more secret rules that are less publicized. For instance, the frequent miler was covering a potential 5-day rule, where if you've had any inquiries or hard credit pulls whatsoever, even from mortgages or loans, then you'll want to wait at least 5 days before applying to a Citi card. So with this said, and after all the digging that I've done, it really started making me think that no one really honestly has a fucking clue. And so if you want to be conservative and go with frequent milers warning, which I would probably recommend, it might be best to apply that same rule to the 8-day rule. Just don't have any hard inquiries in the last 8 days before applying to this card. And now while all these rules might sound restrictive, it's actually not a huge barrier to people unless you're aggressively applying for cards. I personally try to space my applications about 90 days apart, and so far it's worked great for me. I've only hit really 2 roadblocks that I've been able to get around. Now aside from all these dates, in order to get approved, you also need to be aware of some date milestones that are important to get the actual sign-up bonus, which is the most important part, of course. So if you received the Citi Premier before it was actually rebranded to the Citi Strata Premier, you'll need to wait 48 months since you've earned that bonus. And then whenever the time comes, if it ever comes, whenever the Citi Strata Elite card ever gets released, you'll want to just double check and make sure there aren't any family rules attached to that sign-up bonus that prevents you from getting the Elite bonus. Because there is a tiny chance that because you're getting the Premier bonus, you may not be eligible. And what I mean by that is just check the fine print, make sure it doesn't say you're not able to receive this bonus if you receive the Citi Strata Premier. I would highly doubt that it would make it that restrictive. It's not typical, but just a thought to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, but now aside from these vague application date warnings, rules, and prescriptions, what are some things that you might actually be able to do to improve your odds? Let's start with credit scores. NerdWallet says good to great is what you need, and they start good at 690. But with that said, as always, the gooder the better. But people with 800 plus scores can still get denied due to having a lot of inquiries or other random unknown factors, as seen on many Reddit threads. But being a Citi customer may send some positive vibes to the bank your way. For instance, if you have an old Citi card, like a Citi Double Cash card from back in the day, be sure to keep that open because they will try to cancel your card if you've been inactive for a prolonged period. It almost happened to me. So just put a transaction or 2 every so often to keep it active. Or if you don't have an old card, you can consider getting a checking account with Citi instead. You might even be able to squeeze a cash sign-up bonus by signing up for one. And then before you actually go applying to these cards, there have been some anecdotal recommendations about having some kind of balance on your cards. And so by that, whenever your statement is about to come to an end, you don't want that balance to be very high by any means, especially not 30% or higher of your credit utilization of that specific card. But apparently you also don't want it at 0. Now, is there a sweet spot percentage? Probably not. This is probably just another one of those Citi approval tricks that may or may not have any merit, but I'm aiming to give you every trick I could find on the internet for you. Now, whenever you are ready to apply, there is technically a pre-qualification page where you can put in your information and see if you're pre-qualified for any Citi cards without any hard inquiries. And now I did this while making this video and it said I wasn't available for anything. And I don't think that's really true, so I wouldn't take it to heart, but it's something that you could do. I personally did not try to use this page whenever I applied to this card and I still got approved. And then once you apply, if you're wondering what credit bureau they'll pull from, theoretically they could pull from any of them, but I've most consistently seen them pull either from Equifax or Experian, and it may depend on the location between which of those two they pull. They pulled my Experian and I'm in Texas. And then what if you get denied? Unfortunately, there's not too much that you can do in that case. You can try to call the reconsideration line, that's always best practice, but anecdotally, they're pretty useless. And they'll just offer a shoulder to cry on without much useful advice, just kind of restating what your rejection letter says. And honestly, I wouldn't bother calling before you get that rejection letter because it is their official policy to wait to tell you anything until you get that letter. Now, if you do get rejected, I'd consider what they say and see what changes can be made based on that, and also what I've talked about so far, but ultimately time might be the final solution if all of the other boxes are checked. But now, how about my experience? How did I get approved? Well, let me show you exactly how this played out in real life. My original plan was to get the Citi Strata Premier, the CSP, then if automatically approved, I would try to get the Barclays Aviator card because that's supposed to eventually be discontinued. But I knew before applying that Citi was inquiry sensitive, so I was going to apply to Citi first before I did anything else. And I applied and I didn't get automatically approved, so I didn't bother with the Aviator card. Instead, I got a fat pending decision with the commands to wait for a letter in the mail. Call and check the status of the application and see if there's any additional information that I could provide to make that decision for them, because I had a feeling of what I did wrong. However, they insisted that I wait for the letter and call that number on the letter. And now what had went wrong, the mistake that I made, was that I had just moved. And so I had just changed the address on my Citi account. And then like a day or two later, I applied for the card. And as I was doing all this, I was like, I wonder if Citi would find this suspicious. And sure enough, that seems to be exactly the issue. I got the letter. They just wanted me to call and confirm some information. The information they asked me whenever I called earlier during the week. But once I did that, they went through the approval. It's pretty annoying that I had to wait for the letter, but it is what it is. And so if you're curious about my stats and all my data points, I am a previous Citi customer having the Citi Double Cash card since 2018. I got the Citi Advantage business card back in 2022, and I applied to the Citi Strata Premier in January of 2025. My last hard inquiry before that application was in March of 2024, where I had gotten 2 cards in one day, the Southwest Personal Card and a Bilt Rewards card. I did also get the Amex Business Gold card in June of 2024, but I'm already a customer of Amex, so it didn't come up as a hard pull on my report. And then in November, my wife had gotten a card, so that was a sign-up bonus we were working between all that time, so I had a lot of extra padding between my applications. That's a solid 10 months since my last hard inquiry before applying for the Citi Strata Premier. So I had a total of 5 hard inquiries over the past 24 months on my Experian credit report, and 7 credit cards opened, with only 2 of those being personal credit cards. But now I'm gonna be straight up with you. I never check any of this information before applying to this card, or truthfully any card. I'm not big on assessing all the data points, how many inquiries are on this report, which report are they gonna pull. I really just check the date since my last hard inquiry and my 524 status, but that's really about it. I kind of just keep the fingers crossed. But I know some of you folks are a little bit more detailed oriented than I am in some of these cases, so I wanted to provide that information for y'all. So now you might be wondering why out of the past 8 credit cards I've opened, 5 of them are business cards. If you're curious, then you'll want to check out this video where I break down why this is my secret to earning maximum points and miles. And if you want to learn more about Citi cards and Citi points, then you'll want to check out this video here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.